Roxo Media House.
Welcome back to FORTitude, everyone. J.W. Wilson, Brenton Payne. You are amidst the Captex Bank studio. Thank you, Captex Bank. Mike Thomas, one president. We're blessed to have you guys in our loop. We're thankful for your support, and we couldn't do this without you. Brenton, today, sitting between us, we got a cool guy. I would call him a friend. Would you call us a friend?
Absolutely.
We've gotten to know you a little bit over the years.
Both of us or just one of us?
Still 50-50. Feeling it out. Matt Homan, president and GM of Dickies Arena. Thank you for being here, Matt.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
This guy lives in a very cool space.
In a van.
We get to see his work quite
outside
often.
the arena.
Down by the river.
Yes.
Down by the river, yes. So, Matt, before we get into why you're here, I mean, the genesis of why you're here, but where are you from and how'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up from originally Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Grew up there, going to lots of events with my dad. My dad worked for Ticketmaster for a long time, so kind of grew up in the event industry a little bit, which was pretty cool. You got to see all the stuff, but really fell in love with everything behind the scenes, and that was something that was really important to me. After growing up there, I went to the University of South Carolina, so a Gamecock.
Gamecocks, all
yeah,
right.
We're going to be a good football team this year. I have a good feeling about us. That's a little bit of the quick history.
Right.
What? Okay, so paint the picture. So Philadelphia 76ers games, like what was going on at the Philly arenas like around that time?
Diehard Philadelphia Flyers and 76ers fan.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Grew up. I actually ball boyed for the Sixers during the Dr. J, Charles Barkley years.
Wow.
What does that look like?
Do you know who those guys are, Brenton?
Familiar, yeah.
Okay.
Only by pictorial type of deal. Does that mean with the ball boys, like you're out there handing it to them, and then you put them back on that rack with the wheels and post game?
Did that, and then you'd also get to sweep the floor when sweat would drip or something like that.
Nice.
What a joy!
I remember one time I had pretty bad asthma as a kid growing up, and you were still smoking inside the arena at the Spectrum, and I was having like a bad thing, and I was and they had to call me out. The ref had to double whistle me out to come wipe up some sweat from Moses Malone, and I'm up there looking at him like, oh my gosh, look how big that guy is.
Serious.
I bet.
Yeah.
Were you in an asthma attack at that moment?
I was, I was needing some inhalers and stuff. And I was like,
Yes, for sure.
Dr. J probably played while he was smoking. He was so
right on,
freaking
right
good.
on.
Yeah.
So, and then with your dad being a Ticketmaster, like what era are we talking about for not only sporting events, but kind of concerts and stuff like that at that time?
Oh, so, I mean, growing up in the, late 80s, early 90s, obviously graduated from high school in, 95. I got to see a lot of great things. And my first job was actually working at the Spectrum as a ticket seller. And I was there for actually when when Page and Plant got into a fist fight backstage.
No kidding.
Wow. Yeah. That was
Did you just hear about it? Like nobody was really back there?
I was kind of back there and didn't see it and just saw all the security rush together and separate everyone. And it was kind of, what just happened. But,
Were you working like the will call window up there?
I was actually working guest services. So when people came in complaining about their seats because it was too high or, they broke their leg and can't fit in the seats and things like that, I was the relocation person.
Well, okay, best complaint
ever.
Yeah. Somebody shows up and says what? Like, I took the acid too early, man. Like, I cannot sit here. Like,
I mean,
what
you saw
happened?
that, but back in that day, it was more dealing with duplicate tickets. And because I had a little bit more of a vast ticket background, I could kind of, I was a little bit more experienced with that. I could say, hey, this person's got fake tickets. They're out.
Yep.
Imagine doing that at a Dead concert back in 90s.
It was kind of
ugly
together because I know a guy who did take the acid too early and had the fake ticket and went in, and they're like, you're not going in this show, man. And he just had to go out in the parking lot and hang out, for the rest of the time.
Best concert as a kid through all this experience?
Well, I mean, I'm a diehard Springsteen fan, so it was probably the first concert I ever saw live was Springsteen in 83. So, that's one of my favorites.
That's cool.
That's definitely one of my favorites. Pearl Jam at the Wells Fargo Center was definitely a great one as well.
Wow.
There's a lot of them. I've seen so many good shows. I remember going to my first Dead concert actually at the Spectrum, and and the crowd just starts going nuts. And, I'm in high school. And
Yeah.
I'm a freshman in high school. And I look around, I go to the guy, I go, what just happened? They're like, oh, they haven't played Unbroken Chain in, 22 years,
Yeah.
400 some shows. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
this is
for
great.
sure. This is good. Yeah.
so-
What's
amazing.
really fun about the Dead shows is how the family dynamic, like where you'll look over and there'll be a father and son and brother all passed out together, during the second set, just completely comatose. And, it's just,
Yeah.
it's like the most
I-
dysfunctional thing going.
I used to have a cousin that lived in Cincinnati, and the only time we would see him when the Dead came to town.
Yeah.
Because he'd get tickets from my dad, and he'd stay at our house and shower.
Well, that's like my uncle is a huge Deadhead too. It's like every bad seed in the family that starts the fights during Christmas is all together for a concert, right?
Yeah.
Like it's all
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
people. I
Right.
love the Dead, man. I'm being
Get
Sure,
a
you
great
took me
grilled
with you.
cheese outside, too.
yeah,
you
for
know?
sure, for sure.
All right, what brought you to Fort Worth?
So I was running the Wells Fargo Center, and this opportunity came that they were building this arena in Fort Worth, Texas. And at the time in my career, I was happy. I was doing my dream job, which was running the Wells Fargo Center, which I thought was the pinnacle of my career. Run the NHL, NBA town, building that I grew up going to. Was something that was special to me. But I fell in love with this concept of this not-for-profit opportunity that was going to run the facility, and not only that, just a not-for-profit that was going to open with little debt. And then, all the dollars that this not-for-profit can make, the only thing we could do with those dollars is reinvest them back into the facility. I mean, that was like mind-boggling at the time. It's like, wow, there's someone can do that. Because, I was working, Comcast was overseeing the Wells Fargo Center at the time. And, it was just getting to a point where Comcast was like, okay, find 3% more, find 4% more. And the only way to do that in our industry is because we don't create the events. We try to go solicit them and bring them in, but I can't make the Who go on tour, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Well, we talked about that real quick. That dynamic,
Yeah.
like, if I'm a band, I come to you. Many people don't understand that relationship. Everyone thinks that you pay me to come to you, but do I pay to use your? Like, how does that work?
yeah, no, that's a great question. So I am actually in the rental business the majority of the time.
Okay.
Now I get involved with promoters and do what we call co-pros and things like that, where we co-promote it together. But for the most of the events that we do, we're in the rental business, and we rent the building out to like a Live Nation or an AEG, who are the two largest concert promoters in the world, or an Outback Concerts. And they bring in the artist. They'll have a tour with that artist, and they'll route the tour of that artist, and then they'll bring them into our facility and just rent to use the facility.
Okay.
But obviously, the key is you want those events to do well, because you don't just want to bring in, an act that's going to only sell 2,000 seats and see that promoter lose their butt, right? Because
Right.
that doesn't make money for anyone.
Yeah.
And then that's going to be a detraction to the event. So you want to help market and solicit and help bring those people in. The other thing is that the more they come in, the more they eat, the more they drink, the more they spend. That's where we tend to make our money.
Well, and those things are built to the better they sound, right? Like you get only 2,000 people in a 150 or whatever, the 40,000 arena. It's bound that sound is bouncing off the wall. It's just not good,
Yeah, it's terrible. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you want that full house. And there's nothing like walking into a full arena.
Right.
But even if at a not full arena, the way that we built Dickies Arena is that, we have a curtaining system in our upper level. And even if it's a lower bowl show, like you want that energy and that vibe, and the band wants it too, because
Yes.
they don't want to be embarrassed
Yeah.
out there.
For sure.
Now, in the build of that thing, it's kind of it is a very unique build, like the way that they've done the circular dome with 0 truss rods going across. Maybe you can speak to that. And then the weight capacity, because the band's like that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So two things is, one is when the design, I came in on the front end of the construction phase, but a lot of the design was done, right? I came in and was able to make some operational changes, which we can talk about later. But, the dome was there to really duplicate what the rest of the campus looked like. So we didn't want to build a glass building in the cultural district there. We want something that fit well into, the rest of the district. And that's why you see that dome, which really looks like the Will Rogers Dome, and
Yeah.
the cupola that really looks like that, and the towers that you have up there as well. So really fits all together within the rest of the campus, which is really important. Weight is something that, rigging weight is what you're asking about. That's the second part of the question. I mean, that's something that was really important to us. When I came in here, I think we were able to handle 150,000 pounds, and we bumped that up to over 250,000 pounds, because you don't want to ever get into a place where you're saying, hey, we can't weigh this, or we can't do this show because that weight or something like that.
Yeah, like Radiohead brings all these TVs like this back in the day, and you can imagine that it's like, no, I want all my gear in a real tight space, like a really intimate space. Like I want that vibe that it's not this hard to sell out, but I want all this magic stuff happening too.
Yeah, one of the cool things coming up, which was the first time for us, is we're actually upcoming. We're going to do PBR World Finals.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to load out PBR and do Paul McCartney, right? And then we're going to load Paul McCartney out and do PBR. Well, as a part of this, what we're going to do is we're going to keep some of PBR's equipment up, some lighting stuff, and we can fly it all the way up to the ceiling. So it'll be at 125 feet off the ground. So it's not going to be noticeable. But we're actually going to carry about 185,000 pounds in the building at one time, which will be our first time doing that. So we'll bring Paul McCartney's rig in, which is about 145,000 pounds, and then 40,000 pounds of PBR will still be up there in the ceiling as well, but you won't ever see it.
Is that weight or light? What's the significance? It's like the weight
That's
of the
weight.
speakers?
Yeah. It's speakers, lighting,
That's what I
truss.
meant,
Lighting,
speakers,
speakers, lighting truss. It's not really speakers for PBR, but for McCartney it will be. It's lighting truss, and McCartney's lighting truss are going to be very, it's going to be a McCartney show.
Can we backtrack just a bit so we tell your story fully?
Sure.
When you get to Fort Worth, they're starting to build Dickies. You met a man named Ed Bass. I guess Ed in the board is kind of who you answer to ultimately as the GM. What is your first meeting like with this man, and how's the relationship with him now?
Well, I interviewed with Ed Bass. So this is about 7 years ago now. So before we even broke ground on the building, about 7 years ago, I came into Fort Worth for a meeting with a group of people. Ed Bass was one of them. And we had a great meeting, and we just talked, and we had a great conversation about events and concerts and sporting events and your problems with NHL and NBA facilities. And, it evolved. It was just us having a great conversation. What Mr. Bass has done for Dickies Arena to build this, it's something that I've never seen before. It's something that I have the most respect in the world for that man. He's done a great job building this facility and setting it up for long-term success. Fast forward to where we are now. Yes, he's the chairman of the board that I report to. I have a board of directors that we have, and it's fascinating. It's great. I love learning from him. I love listening to him. He's always got a great opinion and perspective on things, and he's taught me so much since I've been here. So, my respect for Mr. Bass is just it's through the roof. He's done so much for this building, for this community, for me personally, that it's an amazing thing. And his gift to Fort Worth of what he's done by doing all this and putting it together and handing it to the city on a silver platter and saying to him was just, you don't see any other community in the country that's like that.
So you survived COVID, obviously, which was obviously difficult in the industry you're in. But I know things are back to normal, relatively speaking. You're booking some incredible shows. Stat-wise, how does Dickies measure up to compare to where you want it to be, where you thought it'd be, the rest of the world?
And maybe weave in that nonprofit that we began on, and then and like with all that accolades to Mr. Bass to bring that into.
Yeah, sure. So. It was great when we started, in 2019, November of 19, when we opened. I mean, things were going well. We were still this young building. People weren't sure if Fort Worth and Dallas were the same market. And when I say that, I really mean American Airlines Center and us. They weren't sure if we were the same market or different markets. So it was, hey, these guys are doing well. They're selling tickets and blah, blah, blah. And it's going great. COVID hit in March, shut everything down. One of the best things I've done in most proud things in my career is that I didn't furlough or lay anyone off. And that was pretty special to me. We were fortunate to receive PPP loans because of our nonprofit status. So that was neat. And then as we kicked back in, things kept going and going. And then we started putting shows on sale, and, shows are just selling really well. Mm-hmm. And right now, I think we're definitely probably the hottest entertainment market in the United States, in my opinion. And that's because the people of Fort Worth are supporting this facility and coming to shows. We still haven't had that one show that plays Fort Worth and Dallas back to back, but it's coming. It's going to happen this fall.
Idea,
yeah.
Yep, it's going to happen this fall.
You know who it is? Can you say? Or no?
I can't say, but
Can we guess?
You could guess.
Is it Led Zeppelin getting back together
No,
finally?
it's not. No, they are not.
Well,
They're missing a guy.
While
anyway.
he's
Yeah.
pondering, what's the economic impact of Dickies Arena for Fort Worth?
So the
Bieber. It's got to be a Canadian. Justin Bieber.
No, he was just here. The economic that's a tough number to say. You have to get someone to come in and show what it does. But I could say that in each of our fiscal years, we're into our third fiscal year, we've made a profit. We're proud of that. We're proud that we've made a profit.
Right.
We're putting those dollars back in the facility. Even this year, we're going to put $2.5 million back into the facility.
Nice.
So,
On what kind of stuff?
we're
like
upgrading some maintenance, some upgrades to some of our TV displays that we have in there. Some
bigger bars for sure. Yes.
bigger bars. Yeah.
Only for rodeo time.
Right. That's
Some
the
more
next question.
Some more office space because we didn't have much office space when
Yeah.
we did that. So that was a little thing that we needed. If you recall, on top of the garage, on the Chevrolet garage, we have that preview center that we use. We're transforming that into a training center for all of our staff.
Could
for all
we
of our
get some
part-time
fresher
staff.
air circulating in some of the men's room? Just the rodeo kind
Those
of
are the
thing.
nicest restrooms I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's
Now,
better than
nothing
Will Rogers.
compared
That's
to Will
for sure.
Rogers.
Yeah,
Yes,
come on.
exactly.
You don't get that crud as you walk out of Dickies Arena. That's
Yeah.
The
for sure.
bathrooms are amazing over there.
Yeah, I mean the level of detail in that facility
Yes.
is just incredible. I mean,
It is.
everywhere you look, you can find something and be like, "Wow, someone put a lot of time, effort, and thought into that."
Yes.
And 99.9% of the time, it was Mr. Bass.
Let's do this comparison because tonight over in Dallas, Coldplay's playing at the Cotton Bowl. And that place, I think there's some walkways there that it's like you're a circus act. I mean, those catwalks up above, it's crazy. Someone's going to get really hurt. I mean, it's just night and day.
I went
So
to the Cotton Bowl for the Winter Classic, and I swore I'd never go to the Cotton Bowl again for
Yeah.
an event.
Yeah.
And then I went back for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
So,
but it's scary. I mean, the infrastructure of that is
Yeah.
it's truly, you look up and you're like, wow, that's a big crack between a pylon and a,
yeah.
You
cement
saw the
wall.
stones in the Cotton Bowl in that lightning storm.
Yeah.
That had to be fantastic.
Yeah, we were down on the floor. I took my kids. My kids were like, "We're going to see who?" I said, "You're going to see the Rolling Stones,
Yeah.
and you'll thank me later in
Yeah.
life." And
No phones allowed. Just
Yeah,
watch.
we
Yeah.
are
We'll
going to
appreciate-
watch
yes.
the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, there's this thing called the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. You might have heard of it. Tell us how that involved. I mean, obviously, this is one of your babies. What's going on with that in Dickies?
Well, another person I have the utmost respect for is Brad Barnes, the president and general manager of the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, and I call him a dear friend, to be honest with you. And really, that evolved some time ago, really probably 6 years ago when I first got here, of he and I just kind of deciding how to put this all together. And, what we concluded was that, we were best to go out to market with everything together, for us to be one and similar. And, they're the anchor tenant of our facility. We're not out there looking to find another, a minor league basketball team or a minor league hockey team. It doesn't make sense for us. They're our anchor tenant, which every building, in my opinion, needs an anchor tenant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. And for me, on the entertainment side, selfishly, what a better time to have them than, beginning of January into the first weeks of
Like
February.
the slowest of tour time, right, for these bands
Exactly.
and stuff.
So
Yeah.
for me, it's like a perfect world, right?
Yeah.
It gives me the opportunity to book the rest of the year. But the stock show is a huge part of Dickies Arena and a huge part of the reason we're successful right now. And that goes back to, our premium seating packages that we put together for all of our suite holders, our club seat holders, rodeo box holders, loge box holders, in our sponsors. And Brad and I really put that whole concept together and put it out there. And it was something that I don't think many other markets could duplicate, because you can't, in other markets, you'll get a true tenant who doesn't have the same goals as you, and you're gonna fight the whole time.
Right.
Well, and I mean, kudos to you for coming in from out of town and seeing how other models had tried in probably a totally different event, right? The rodeo. I mean, which I don't think, maybe Philadelphia's got a really big rodeo presence, but it seems like you're able to bring all that experience that you have into something like this and then find a common ground to make it really good.
In my interview, they asked me, "Have you ever been to a rodeo?" And I said, "I've seen a PBR once." And
Yeah.
they go, "Well, that's not a rodeo."
Yeah,
And I go, "Well, it's an event, and I'm used to running events, so I have confidence that I can,
Sure.
help with
Obviously, the rodeo is wildly successful here. Are there any things at the rodeo that needs improvement? I mean, this is kind of a loaded question, but is there any challenges that you're trying to overcome in that regard?
Well, I mean, I think from the 2020 rodeo, obviously, to the 2022 rodeo, we've made some vast improvements. I think our in-seat service, the food and beverage portion, got a lot better. I think that Overall, our service improved from where we were in 2020. Our North Club, which is our Avion Club, our dining area, that got a lot better. Staffing got a lot more used to it and was ready for that run.
Yeah.
And I think we did an incredible job this year. The downside is the labor market right now, the part-time labor market. When we opened this facility, I had over 1,300 part-time staff.
Wow.
Right now, I'm hovering around 900 part-time staff. And for any given night at a full event, including the rodeo, we have probably over 600 part-time staff work in the facility.
Holy cow. So you're always looking for part-time help, always.
All the time. And whether it be in food and beverage, operations, security, ushers, ticket takers, box office staff, cleaning, it just goes on and on and on.
Could we work the floor, security?
Absolutely.
I mean, you
Paul
get to see
McCartney
the
concert.
show. Why wouldn't you? You'd be on the floor and you'd let all those people in like you like to be let in, right?
I've recently put my son to work there, and he's been doing
he's
he's been doing some ticket scanning and going like that. And it's funny during Eric Church, on our whatever we posted on Instagram afterwards, you can see the back of his head. He's like, "That's the back of my head."
Oh, that's
nice.
awesome.
So but it's good, But we're trying to find anyone, right? Not anyone, but obviously trying to find staff right now is definitely our biggest challenge.
Yeah.
What's the partnership with the city of Fort Worth look like in regards to Dickies?
Well, the city at the end of the day owns the facility. We have a 70-year lease to manage it. But they own it. They check in on us. They have two people from city council that are on our board. One city council member and the city manager, David Cook, are also on our board. So it's together. We're always working together on things. The whole concept of us being that not-for-profit, though, is to take the red tape out of it.
Yeah.
I don't need to go through, procurement when we want to go buy chairs,
right.
And I don't need, so that's the reason for this nonprofit, is to get that red tape out of it and run it like a for-profit business were. Because, every couple of years, every 5-10 years, we're going to have to dump lots of money into that facility. On a 5-year basis, you could be looking at dumping anywhere from $10 to $15 million, to keep that facility up to its, current standard.
Did they look at Will Rogers and that not happening as the model of what they're going to change? Is that where that came from? Or, I mean, and I'm not trying to be rude about that. It's just, Will Rogers got old, right?
Yeah. And I think that was part of the reason that Mr. Bass wanted that new facility, is because Will Rogers was so tired, and it wasn't maintained, to the level it probably should have. And, once you get that thing 25 years down the road and it hasn't been maintained, it's tough to get back those 25 years and get it back up to a standard. So, Will Rogers is great for what it is, right? And it's a great equestrian event, equestrian home to lots of different events, but they also wanted, there was time for something else. And, there's time for that sports and entertainment and concerts. Fort Worth was big enough.
Yep.
And, again, kudos to Mr. Bass for the vision to bring that all together.
Yeah.
So you bring in some incredible things like NCAA basketball, March Madness, USA Gymnastics, concerts, obviously the rodeo. Is for people who don't understand how that works, who is the person? Is it you? Do you have a team that's go out and finding these people and bringing them in and showing them why they should do this and bringing them in? Is there a talent scout of sorts? How does that work?
It's kind of me, it's just, I take the booking myself. I do it all. I hold it close to my heart. It's something that I enjoy, something that I'm still able to do with my current role. So I'm out there going after these events. We actually announced, if you may recall, winning the NCAA gymnastics and the NCAA men's basketball tournament the day we broke ground on the arena.
Right.
I mean, that was the day we announced it. Fortunately, that bidding cycle with the NCAA, and you have to know what the NCAA bidding cycle is and what that looks like. That bidding cycle with the NCAA was for 2020, 2021, 2022. Well, the NCAA as a whole is never going to give you those dates in 2020, the year you open, just in case construction's not there, blah, blah, blah. They don't want to do that. And thankfully, they didn't give it to us in 21, or else we would have missed out on that because of COVID.
Yeah.
So we were fortunate that we got it in 22. So that was something that that kind of we got lucky with. But no, I'm in charge of those. I went after those, the American Athletic Conference men's basketball tournament. We brought that in. And then now we work with Visit Fort Worth and the Fort Worth Sports Commission, Jason Sands, about bringing in lots of different events. Credit to them. They brought in USA Wrestling during COVID when USA Wrestling was supposed to be at Penn State to host their championship, and they couldn't do it, which was their Olympic trials because of COVID, because of Pennsylvania laws. At the time, they brought it to us, and kudos to them for bringing those out there to us. There's this other thing in Texas called the Event Trust Fund, which I don't know if you're aware of or not, but it's these incentive dollars that the state gives you basically on the sales tax, back to the event holder or the host that help entice them to bring events to Texas. It's great for the state of Texas. It's great for venues to go after these things, and it helps secure some of them as well.
So you're talking about, even though that's a real strike force capacity, there is some red tape associated with some of that. I got to think that you're negotiating this stuff with these promotions guys who are the slickest guys around and are the best negotiators ever. Is that a stressful time because they're bringing something to you, or you're wanting to get something, then the negotiations begin, then you're like, can I fit it? And then can I make it? Can I make these numbers? Like, that's got to be like a shot clock going. Can I make it work in this time frame?
Yeah, there's a lot of quick decisions that you have to make throughout that, but it's education and it's volume really more than anything else. It's, you're not sitting there saying, well, I don't know if I want to do, James Taylor because maybe Justin Bieber's going out on tour. I know you're a Justin Bieber fan, but you don't sit there and make those questions. It's more about the volume of events and concerts. Once they start learning that that's the market they want to play, there's a little wiggle room that they'll find. And if you don't have Friday available, maybe they'll say, okay, Thursday or Saturday. Then, even though they were routed with you, maybe they'll change it a little bit. So you have to work that process as well, which is a process to work. But it's about being flexible. It's about, not being greedy towards events and making sure that everyone can make money and move on down the road.
Is there like a promotion, like Concerts News magazine, like an industry mag where you can get some of the kind of the feel of what's going on? Polestar
is a great resource that I use a lot that'll give you touring history. It's weird right now in the touring models because everything's selling different than it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
We're extremely hot market right now. Pre-COVID, the Northwest was pretty hot, and it's kind of skimmed down a little bit right now, which is...
Do the artists like here because of why everybody else does? Central country, huge airport, easy to get in and out of, sans weather?
Not really. They're looking at more, where can they make the most money? That's important to the artist or to the, to also the promoter.
Yeah.
Where are they going to sell the most tickets? But they also want the great experience and the great fan experience too. Yeah. And I think our fan experience we offer is second to none.
Yeah.
And so that's something they look to. It's been reported that George Strait obviously is coming back. It's been reported to us that he really likes our venue. And, he really loved it and fell in love with our venue. And, I think that's one of the reasons that is bringing him back.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, for instance. This is his second trip to Dickies. A guy like George Strait, you're reaching out to his agent, I believe. How does that go? Like, hey, obviously you have a connection. I'm looking to book George. Is it that simple? And they say, these are the dates we can give you, and then you negotiate the price and it's done?
Well, that one was unique. Our first time that we did it, it was more like that. And I was friends with his manager and agent and talked to him about it. I've known him a long time, a good friend of mine, not George, but his manager and agent.
Who's his agent?
The gentleman we deal with is Louis Messina out of Austin. And Louis has been in the industry for a long time. And I call him a dear friend. And he is he's one of the guys I come hang out. I go sit on his bus with him for a little bit and, chat and it's a great experience. But, George was one of those people that, when we opened, I called Louis and I said, Louis, it makes sense. I need George to be, one of the first shows.
Yeah.
And at the time he had a Vegas residency and Vegas wasn't sure if they were going to let him do it, but Louis agreed and, was really excited about it. And George had a great show and, and did great numbers. The fans loved it. And even George on stage said, I'll be back.
Yeah.
And here we go. Yeah. Post-COVID, he's coming back. And hopefully this isn't his last time.
Great job, by the way. I was lucky enough, I think it was 8 years ago in San Antonio, to be at George Strait's last concert ever. Obviously, that's not the case, but it was sad. Everybody's crying. Cowboy Rides Away. My kids were asleep in my lap. They couldn't make it, but of course, obviously he wasn't done at the time. He's still going strong. This is kind of amazing, and it's even more amazing that he loves Dickies. I love that he says that to you, and it's really encouraging. Luckily, I'm going to be at the concert, and I can't freaking wait. But
last touring show was in San Antonio. That was his last touring concert.
So
that's the difference there.
Right.
And he just opened the Moody Center in Austin just this past weekend, I think.
What do you think it is about our fan experience? Like, I mean, obviously people here are very nice and stuff. We don't want to repeat the cup incident at Starplex when Guns N' Roses played. In our defense, Axl did not come out for a significant amount of time. But what is it about like this in Fort Worth?
Well, I think it's about, the intimacy you have of that facility. It's 13,000 seats for George Strait. It's intimate, it's tight, it sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember, he's using our house sound system. He's not bringing in any, supplemental sound for the arena. He brings in some supplemental sound for the floor, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm. So
that's our house.
Significant cost for him.
Well,
right?
yeah, but he's not worried about that. I don't think as much. It's just more about like it's first class. That's the way that it should be. And again, it's more of a partnership with them to bring those shows in here. It's something that we look forward to and that we're excited about.
Does he have a guarantee, Matt, you can tell us?
He does have a guarantee.
Okay, good. All right, good.
He gets it all.
I guarantee that's right.
And you do hear some grumblings right now about ticket prices, but you look at George Strait and in a 13,000 seat venue and
in Fort Worth, Texas,
Texas,
what you would presume would be the guy's home practically.
So it makes sense, and there, yes, it doesn't appeal to everyone, but it does appeal to a market that is still paying for those tickets.
Worst negotiation of an artist you ever had?
Oof, worst negotiation.
Like where you took it, where you were like, I need you bad, and I just can't believe I'm giving you all this for this.
Well, I don't know that's worse, but Paul McCartney is probably, this Paul McCartney show is probably a break-even show for us.
He is a billionaire for a reason.
Well, not just for that, though, because, my deal with PBR is I'm paying for all the changeover costs to get out of PBR and then bring PBR back in.
So what do you cover, the dirt on the floor?
No. We're going to take all the dirt out. I'm going to clean the building, get it ready. So, for deals, that's probably my worst deal. But we're doing Paul McCartney in Fort Worth.
You got to do what you got to do.
And you know what? It's good for our suite holders. It's good for our club seat holders. It's good for our sponsors. It shows that, Fort Worth is the market to play.
And committed clearly, right?
Yeah.
And like, I got to imagine that in the industry, it's like, you know what? Those guys will work with you. They moved all this dirt out of an arena and then back in the next day.
Where does that dirt go, by the way, for the small period of time?
So we're
in your bed.
We got a route that
my
we're gonna.
son's bed.
We got some parking lots, around the south of the garage that we're gonna, just export it out there and then bring it back in. So
we get Ted Carter coming to do a little BMX expo over there.
Just to give you an idea about Fort Worth, the market, and it's sad that I bring this up, but I will. We went on sale with the Judds, and how devastating to hear about the loss of her. But we went on sale with the Judds the same week that Garth Brooks went on sale and sold out AT&T Stadium, and we sold out the Judds on the opening day.
Oh wow!
Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the biggest country music artist in next to George Strait, of course, Louis, in case you listen to this, in the world, goes on sale, and we sell out the Judds that same week.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing and telling of how much Fort Worth is supporting this facility in my mind.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Hardest artist to deal with from a personality standpoint. I guess you wouldn't want to say that because you then
Kanye.
Seriously.
That's
demands.
not surprising, but yeah, he does bring a tremendous crowd.
Kanye, we were in a room like this, and Kanye brought in a lattice roof over top of him in a locker room so he could feel like he was at home.
Are you kidding me?
Sounds like you, Brenton, a little bit.
No.
Reminds me of your setup.
This is my accoutrement.
That is.
All right, let's switch gears for a second. Panther City Lacrosse. We are huge fans. We've been to many events of their games. Speaking of moving dirt, putting that situation together, it sounds like a nightmare, but you guys have made it work. How is Panther City doing in your eyes?
I think they're doing well. I think they had a good start for their first season. I think, Greg Bibb, who I have a lot of respect for bringing this in and putting it all together, understands that this is a build. Obviously, lacrosse is not the founding sport of Texas, but it's growing, right? And I think I think if Panther City, I think it's going to take 2 or 3 years, but I think they're going to grow, and I think they're going to do better next year, and I think they'll do better the year after that. I think the youth lacrosse market is really hot in Texas, and it's getting hotter. And I think Panther City, in my opinion, it has to focus on that as to build their franchise. But
is it hard?
It's a great sport.
Right.
Is it hard to do with the rodeo because of like the scheduling, like because it kind of overlaps that?
So as we started talking about this, years ago, I said, look, here's the blackout periods. And I talked to the league, and I know the commissioner of the league very well. I said, here's going to be the blackout dates to do the rodeo, and it's going to be basically Christmas till the first or second weekend of February.
Yeah.
It just depends on the year. And he said, I think we can still make that work. And I said, look, if we can make that work, then I want to keep moving forward.
I would almost argue that it was nice to come back to, like you start in Christmas and you're kind of ramped up, and then they go play the away games or whatnot. And then you're like, oh, it's coming back. We got another game. Because I do think we had season tickets and you get not burned out, but that's a lot to ask going to every single game kind of thing. So
yeah, but it's the right amount of games too, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's 9 home games. It's not 40 games, right? You're not feeling overcommitted, and so you can spread it out. You're not doing in the minor league hockey model. It just doesn't work when there's that Friday, Saturday, Sunday home series.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, that's a lot. Who's going to dedicate their whole weekend to go into that? You can't, So Greg and I talked, and we really thought this lacrosse was the right fit for the right amount of events and games at the facility.
Yeah.
Any future sports coming that we don't already have?
I think we got some. Not that we don't already have. Well, I take that back. We've announced that this August we're gonna have an esports event here,
Okay.
the Rocket League World Championships,
Nice.
which your kids probably know what that is.
Oh, yeah.
So Rocket League will be here for their World Championships in August. I think that's pretty cool. And then we're going to continue doing college basketball games. I think we got some really good games on tap that I can't announce, but I'm sure you two would be at one of them. So, which will be a great game. Versus what we think is, obviously TCU will be a part of that, and TCU, should be a top 20 team next year.
Well, it was just I was lucky enough to get asked and go to one of those basketball games, the NCAA. You're like on a Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, the place is packed, and I think about like this wouldn't have happened without this. Like
No.
you think about how many fans came from North Carolina, like all these other places, filled up our hotel rooms, are out eating in our restaurants. Like there's cities that haven't even woken up yet, from all of this stuff. And here we have the benefit of something like this in the middle of a weekday. I mean, it's just this is a cool thing.
It was amazing. And I mean, look we're so great at the draw that we had with the number one seeds here, and just the games that we had were incredible. I mean, and just you saw the fans love it there. They were there all day, for both sessions on the Thursday. It was incredible to be. We did a hair under $1 million in food and beverage for that weekend, for that Thursday and Saturday. So, I mean, it was great.
I would like to see Globetrotters if I could put in that request.
You should.
I don't like going over to Dallas for it.
We have the Globetrotters at Dickies Arena.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have them there.
Oh, good.
They're there every year, usually in March
Perfect.
or April timeframe. We'll
Okay.
get you down there.
Yeah.
Matt, what's a typical day in your life look like?
Every day's different. That's the thing that I fell in love with this industry, is because it's never the same thing twice. I'll be working with our food and beverage team, our marketing team, booking the building, finance, operations, parking. It's always talking about our upcoming events, making sure we're planned, making sure we're ready, and booking the building. So I'm trying to call agents and talk to agents and promoters about what we're doing, how things are selling. We sold out recently. Another great win for us recently was the New Edition concert. It was our first R&B concert that we did in the building. It's sold out, grossed over $1 million. So immediately, as soon as that's over, I go on the phone with every other promoter saying, "Hey, did you see our first R&B show? We did $1 million for New Edition, sold out every ticket, blah, blah, blah." We announced, and we'll be announcing another R&B show here coming up real soon. And then, so it builds off that. The one thing we haven't done yet that I'm working on very hard is, to get a good Latin show. I really want a good Latin show. I think it's going to happen. It's going to happen soon. We had a boxing event, which, brought a lot of the Latin community, but I want a Latin concert. And, I think we'll get one here in the next couple months, to be honest with you.
Who's somebody in that regard that you'd be looking at to do?
Well, I mean, there's great ones out there. There's, whether it be a Banda MS or something like that. But someone that really
That's
goes.
the Ticks and Speedways doing a deal with them for their big race card.
Yeah, and Christian Nodal, there's a lot of them like that can sell lots of tickets right there. So it's something that I'm actively talking to. I'm talking to the Latin promoters. I just had a great conversation with them last week actually, and now they're looking and asking me for availability and starting to work out a deal basically.
Nice. Don't look at your phone now, but how many friends hit you up for tickets for events you put on?
A good amount.
You probably make friends fast in a town.
A good amount. I get a lot of requests, but it's also part of the business of what I do. Very fortunate that a lot of my friends actually support the facility and buy club seats for ours, which really supports the facility and then gives them that first right of refusal when concerts come. So I have I'm very fortunate to be here, very fortunate to be a part of this and to grow it to where it is.
Best day at best concert at the Dickies for you personally.
Or favorite new concert. Edition, man. They play Candy Girl.
I mean, Strait was great. The opening concert we did was awesome with Jason Isabel there and Steve Miller Band. That was fun just because we finally got to kick the tires. Strait was great. Eric Clapton was great.
I can see where it gets difficult for sure.
Yeah, it does. It gets tough. It's like picking your favorite kid. You can't do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but you certainly have the ones that you look forward to and you get excited for. Church was a great show.
Right.
I'm not a huge Eric Church fan, but I mean, the guy can entertain and he put on a show.
Yes, indeed.
It was funny. They were telling us the story afterwards that as he's driving to the arena, he and his wife were writing the set list and wanted to put the tribute to those Texas artists. They played the Pat Green song and a couple of those other songs, and he just came up with it right there. And he's like, I'm trying to learn the lyrics as he's going along doing it, reminding himself how to play it.
And he was able to do it and pull it off?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great. And he played for like 3 hours.
You go as deep as looking like setlist.fm, like to see what these guys are doing, or no?
I do, yeah.
I mean,
but I'm...
Because you're a fan, too, right?
Yeah, well, also, I'm a fan,
But you got to have some pride in like what they did at your arena, right?
And you want to see if it's the same set list, if it's going to change, do they mix it up? There's some artists they'll go tour to tour and just play the same exact set list over and over again.
Yeah.
There's reasons for that why the artists do that, but then there's also ones that just mix it up and change it all and throw it all out and say, hey, let's write out the set list and go.
Okay, nightmare scenario, like worst day on the job, like hot dog water doesn't get changed, or I don't know what the example is.
I think it gets worse than that.
Yeah.
I mean, traffic flow is probably for me, like when traffic, because no one gets more mad except for when they have traffic problems. So traffic flow is probably one of my biggest nightmares and pet peeves. Traffic flow and cleanliness of the facility. But cleanliness we can control, right? Like we can go in before doors, say, hey, it's not clean enough. We need to clean it again and keep going. Traffic flow, you're on the mercy of a lot of the police officers, and we have to hire all those police officers on the average event. We probably spend over, probably close to 12 to 15 grand on police officers for traffic flow for a full house concert.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of money for traffic flow, but again, you have bad traffic experiences. No one will want to come back. Like when you go to the Cotton Bowl, you don't want to go back. Right? But, so you want to make sure that it's good. So we've changed our traffic patterns. We've got better with it. We think we have good systems in it. Not everyone's always happy. Our goal is to try to clear those lots on a full concert at between 30 to 40 minutes. So
are we good with places to stay around there and stuff? I don't even know what the time frame between Victory or like after American went in Victory Park. Are we on path for that, or what's your thoughts there?
I think we're getting closer.
Okay.
I think with the new Crescent that's going to open up down there on West 7th, that's going to be wonderful. I'm really excited for that project. Jonathan Morris did it great with his little Hotel Trice, which is great. It's very unique. It's very boutique-y, but it's a great facility to have. There's rumors of Marriott looking at another facility around our neighborhood as well. Yeah. But I think with the Crescent and the Marriott, I think that's going to help really improve those destinations.
And hopefully turn out on a lot of this stuff. I mean, if you can walk to a venue or you can get quick Uber, it's just like...
It's so much nicer, right?
Even though here, it's really... I mean, it's nice.
Well, heck, you can see New Edition or George Strait in your home in 12 minutes. That in itself is magical.
For sure.
Yeah.
Matt Homan, you've done an amazing job. Kudos to you. Keep it up. We're very happy to call you a friend. We love what you do for a living. Before we go, we always ask our guests this significant question. Family aside, no wedding, no kids, what's the best day of your whole life?
I think easily said right now is the day I took the job here to come to Dickies Arena. I think
That's
Get
awesome.
out.
Yeah,
They don't even listen. Mr. Bass doesn't listen to this. You don't have to say that.
I think it was. It's just, it's the perfect setup in the perfect scenario in the perfect town, and the opportunity was there. And I saw it. Mr. Bass did see it, and I was excited about
You
it.
seem
think
like
you
you
get
really-
Springsteen here?
Yes.
So you can answer
Yes.
next time?
Yes.
You
So
seem like
next
you
time
really
you
love
can
what
answer
you-
that.
No,
Yeah.
yes, he's
A new
come.
answer.
He'll come.
You seem like you really love what you do, so that in itself is awesome. Great job, Matt. Thank you,
Yeah,
Matt
thank
Homan.
you, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Great job.
FORTitude, Fort Worth.